Hi, welcome to VNN's discussion series. This is episode number 10 with Ambassador Praveen Verma, retired, and we will talk about, of course, the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. We cannot call it a crisis, it's a full-blown war, it looks like. Anyway, welcome to VNN, Praveen.
Good morning, Bala. Good morning, Bala. It's snowing outside, and
I know, that's the thing. And it's a
but
good...
then much more is falling in Ukraine.
Yeah, of course, but that's bombs.
Bit
Bombs
of
and
today,
missiles. Huh?
yeah, much more missiles and whatnot, and somewhere around Chernobyl, which is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, that's been captured. That's what this morning's report said.
Yeah, that has been captured. A couple of more cities have been captured, and even Kiev has been surrounded.
So we'll have to see what happens. I think that will form. I think the idea, Putin's idea, is to effect a regime change. He wants a friendly government in Kiev,
Yeah,
siding with the Russian Federation and not with NATO or the European Union. That's what he wants.
yes.
What
A friendly government which says that no, and also some commitment from the Western powers that they will not be expanding NATO.
What's the genesis? I mean, how did the crisis begin? You know, I know it started in 2014 after the elected government was overthrown. Putin says it was all planned by the West. So
This started right after the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Mm-hmm.
When and of course the fall of USSR, and Russians, the USSR disintegrated, and then Berlin Wall fell. When the Berlin Wall fell, there were two camps at that time: NATO, which was the Western Alliance, and the Warsaw Pact countries, which was the Eastern Pact. After the fall of USSR, Warsaw Pact disintegrated, and slowly all these countries declared their independence and became independent republics. And when the Berlin Wall fell, and the Gorbachev at that time agreed to for the unification of Germany, there was a tacit understanding between the Western powers and USSR that NATO will not expand eastwards.
Mm-hmm.
And given that understanding, it went ahead, and then slowly NATO has been expanding and coming nearer and nearer to Berlin gates, this Russian gates. There are missiles in Poland, there are missiles in Romania, there are missiles everywhere. Now, if you see the map of Ukraine, it's bulging out in Russia.
Right, but it's surrounded on all three sides by Russia or Russian friendly.
So if Ukraine also joins NATO, then Russia has a genuine security threat, and it has security threats otherwise also. But Putin said that enough is enough. That's what the game is like that.
I have a feeling this
in 2014 in Crimea, and they took Crimea, which was an indication, and that would have given some sort of
boost
indication to Putin that the West will do nothing. Nothing happened when they took Crimea. Then the next stage was when
Afghanistan also taken
Putin was saying that he will not recognize, he will not attack, and do nothing, and he was just asking the Western powers to agree to this request of security, which I feel that it's a genuine demand, because when you see peace is indivisible, security is also indivisible. You cannot have security on one side and no security on the other side. So that was a demand which, as Russians said, they got nothing in writing, but it is a known historical fact that there was a verbal commitment by the NATO powers. Then what happened that he recognized these two provinces, what you call Donetsk and Luhansk. Now, nothing really happened after that. If you realize, the sanctions were there, but the sanctions were not as severe, maybe, as Russia would have expected. And no military reaction, nothing, and NATO said nothing, and the USSR, all these countries just applied their sanctions, which Russia would have anticipated anyway.
Behind all this, I think underlining this is the problem of the Nord Stream gas pipeline, isn't it? And that's very
No,
important for
that
Europe,
is,
and that's I
that
think
is a,
one main reason behind all this conflict. One
no,
of
I
the
don't
main
think
reasons.
so. It is a part of the trade agreement between Europe and Moscow.
But you see,
For Biden, it might be one, because for Biden, it was that Europe would become independent and would be becoming closer to
and
Europe.
that
So
is the main idea. I think, yeah, that will be a problem.
that was Biden's angle. But Biden is totally out of picture, because the Americans have totally made it very clear they are not going to interfere in Europe.
And Ukraine,
Apart from giving money and the sanctions, which they can do from outside, you would see that even cutting off the Swift link,
that
they
will
could they could not agree. If they had cut off the Swift link, then the Russians would have been totally dependent on barter trade, or with trade with China or other countries which were with them. But they could not unite on that also. So there, I think Putin got his encouragement.
do you know the shares have gone up on
The entire world, I
in the
would say,
US? America, the share market is going up now today. So what does that indicate?
it went down and it's recovery.
Recovered completely.
Recovery. So there's no gain, but then share market happening. The event happens, something, everything goes down, and then businessmen are businessmen. They are happy.
Now see the India factor. Now European Union wants India to come out strongly against Russia, but now Indian analysts say the establishment says that they won't. I think they'll stay independent, and that's I think mainly. I was just going through the news yesterday, and then they were saying defense analysts say, "Oh, when Galwan happened, none of these European countries, barring France, made any noise about China. They didn't talk about sanctions. They didn't condemn China. So why should India now comment on what's on European affairs? Is there some truth in that, isn't it?"
Yeah, but as a matter of fact, if you deeply analyze the statement given by the PR in United Nations,
Yeah.
the statement is not critical of Russia, number one.
Isn't
As a matter of fact, it has spoken about security. And I said that for every country, security is important,
Yes.
which in a way sort of suggests that Russians have some sort of a legitimacy. I don't say this because I want to legitimize Russian action, but this is something which one can read out of it. And of course, they have said that dialogue is to be there. Now, Indian position becomes very delicate in this whole situation, because Russian, my default is, I have grown up during the USSR period, and
Right.
for an Indian diplomat, the default is pro-Russia.
Yeah.
But with the current turnaround, I think we are getting closer to USA also, and we are much more closer to the European Union also. Then NAM has sort of it's taking the back burner. So India has to do a very sort of tightrope situation in this condition, and has to emerge diplomatically as a peacekeeper, and at least a country advocating peace. And fortunately, the Russians want, even the Ukrainians have asked us to do the peacemaking.
But for
And the
that,
Americans
but for that, I think the war has to end quickly. Only then I think, otherwise, if it drags on, then it becomes a problem for India, because then the European Union will say, "Come on, no, you have to have sanctions." Even Japan has now joined in, Taiwan has jumped in, Australia, all the Quad countries. So I think the war ends quickly if
I have been proven wrong. If earlier also I said Russia will not invade, so I will not predict anything. But then I think the war should be ending. And the anticipation was that Kyiv will fall in about 7 days.
I think it'll fall today or tomorrow.
It fall even earlier. Now, the Ukrainian Prime Minister has already started talking about dialogue,
Yeah.
which in a term can be interpreted that he knows that they are not able to, they will not be able to sustain for a longer period. And 8 times bigger army against, when it's a battle between David and Goliath, and this time it's not something a story, it's reality.
And
So Russia,
India, Ukraine has to fight the war alone. There's nobody going to support physically with physical.
Ukraine has realized that NATO is not coming to their help.
No.
None other countries are coming to their help. They're all sending all these 600 military men from Canada also, but they will not fight the war. They'll just train them or do some upgrades here and there. So they are alone. And Russia is alone, but then they are fighting. And how long they are fighting, you see, if it all depends upon the mental and the moral and the patriotic state in that country where you fight to the last breath.
No, but that can't happen because Eastern Ukraine is mostly, it's pro-Russia mostly. So you see, only one part of the country is pro-West. So there's a conflict there too within Ukraine.
Yeah, no, but the point is you have to take over Kyiv. Simple as that. And Kyiv is pro-West. So other cities are, I think most of them have already been taken. If not, and they don't have much importance because Kyiv has to be taken, and I don't know.
Install a new government. I think that's what is going to happen.
Getting the Ukrainian leadership to force them to talk, because I don't think they will come to talk voluntarily.
But in Canada now there are 1.4 million Ukrainians. So it's a huge community, massive community.
Yes, it's a huge community. Yes,
holding a protest today. Yesterday they held a protest in front of the Ukrainian consulate. They were waving flags, and yesterday there weren't many people. But today apparently they are expecting a bigger crowd. And not that it helps. Russia doesn't seem to be bothered about world opinion.
Russia had arrested demonstrators in its own country who were protesting against waging the war in Ukraine. So for Russians, it doesn't matter. They have protests against the war in their own country. So it really doesn't matter. It's here it has become every immigrant community will do that. It's a job and it's a patriotic urge that even in this weather they are able to come out and do it.
Problem is now, will this embolden China to go on an adventurism in Taiwan?
That is
okay. The West is not reacting and nothing happening. Putin succeeds in taking over Ukraine, at least in many ways. And then China might say, okay, it's now our turn. Let us look at Taiwan and the South China Sea Islands and Japan's Senkaku Islands. So let us take those too. What will happen?
It can happen. It is a possibility, and people are discussing this situation. But I think the West has been given a warning, and they should straight away start preparing a defense mechanism so that Taiwan is also not left alone like this. We in India at least are now worried about the sanctions being. You see, the sanctions continue for a long time.
Will it affect India? Yeah.
Jump into the Chinese lap, and with the Russians and Chinese and Imran sort of the little doggy behind it, you don't know.
Imran wags his tail.
There will be another axis going over there. So that's another implication which India has to look at about the reconstruction of the geostrategic topography as to how things will align after this war. The old communist bloc comes back together, and the West is there now. We were NAM leaders. NAM is no more. I don't know why NATO is there, because Warsaw Pact is not there. NAM is also back burner. So similarly, after this episode, I'm sure people would realize the futility of NATO if it cannot react in any situation. What are they for?
Do you think Putin thinks that Biden is a weak leader, and then the 4 years of Trump, there was no bombings anywhere in the world. The US did not bomb. US did not go to war. That's 4 years. Well, that's what the people say now. During Biden's time, again, everything is sort of unraveling. There's some truth in
that? Poor Biden is suffering because of Trump's withdrawal from international.
That's what happened. That's what happened. Yeah, mainly.
Yeah. Trump withdrew from it. Now Biden has again reinvented the whole thing and gone back and said that, okay, no, Europe is our issue, and we'll protect Europe when it's required.
Right.
But now his own people, you see, America is a different ball game altogether, in the sense that I just read a polling over there as to what should Americans do. Most of the Americans didn't know where Ukraine is.
They won't know.
They wouldn't know where Ukraine is. Whether one should attack over there, most of the, you see, the younger lot is totally unaware. So most of the polls were against Americans doing anything in Ukraine.
Right.
Now, what does a leader do in that situation? Tell me. And these are very genuine polls. And I can agree to that, because American youngsters are concentrating on the American scenario. They want America to prosper. And why to put your feet over there? They're thousands of kilometers away, where you have no role to play. So I doubt that Russian public opinion is bothered about what's happening.
As war drags on, casualties mount. There are already 140 Ukrainians have been killed, and I don't know how many Russian soldiers, but Russian tanks are moving towards Kyiv, and we hope the war ends quickly, and then come to some agreement.
For all of
us, as well.
Yeah, for all of us, we were not expecting the war, but the war has started. The best thing which can happen is that it ends quickly, and it ends quickly because it will be if the war drags on, things will go. Not only oil and gas, but other commodities will also go up, and things will start getting expensive. Shortages will start coming.
Oil prices are going up now. So they said the gas at the pump will be much higher from today.
Last time I had sort of joked that you will have to go to 175. I think today I'm saying that if the war goes on for another 10 days, $2. But I don't think, again, my wishful thinking, the incorrigible optimist side of mine says that third day is today, third day already encircled Kyiv.
I think it'll land very soon.
Within a couple of days at least. And Putin also, he knows about the gravity of the sanctions continuing for a long time. And he knows that something has to work out soon enough so that the main thrust of the sanctions at least negotiated.
Now, of course, let's hope Ukraine finish with the crisis ends quickly. I think India now, of course, the elections are going to be, the election results will be out on March 10, and that will, I think, maybe determine some future politics in India too, if it depends on the UP elections mainly. Let us see what happens.
UP Punjab.
Punjab, yeah.
UP BJP would definitely, I think, get at least the single largest party.
Yeah.
Whether they'll get a majority like last time, I'm not so sure, because the farmers' agitation has hit them badly. So if Yogi is able to get a majority in the House, I would say it's a good performance. Things are going on peacefully, so there is not much concern on that. Ukrainian elections have also, Ukrainian problems also have sort of deflected our attention to the Indian news scenario. Maybe in India they are still focusing about it, but at least here in Canada and much of the NRI Indians are looking at both the things over there. And of course, Punjab, one has to see how much does AAP get, because their AAP is supposed to be the single largest party, but then the other parties will gang up, like BJP will gang up and make up.
Anyway, so thanks a lot, Ambassador Praveen, and I think we'll continue this discussion hopefully on a different topic. Ukraine will be all settled by the next Friday. Okay.
Inshallah.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of our discussion series with Ambassador Praveen Verma. Thank you.
Thank you.